Okay, I think we'll go ahead and start on the program, and I know our friends in New York will be tuning in here in just a moment. I want to say good afternoon, well, good morning, still a late morning in Tennessee, the folks in Central Time. But I want to welcome everyone to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. My name is Jerry Shockey. I oversee all the youth and educational programs here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and we're excited to be able to offer this opportunity to students. It's something we've done with 70 of our guys now, and we've connected out to almost 40,000 students across the country through this series over the last 3 or 4 years. So we're extremely excited to have everyone connect in for our Heart of the Hall of Famer series featuring Pro Football Hall of Famer Gold Jacket Claude Humphrey. And before we go to the introduction of Claude and ask him for his opening remarks about character, I do need to recognize a number of folks that helped make this possible here today. First and foremost, we need to thank our friends at Extreme Networks. I know Wanda Williams, it's in the Tennessee area, helped making the arrangements with Bartlett and getting this set up, so finding a host site for Mr. Humphrey. We greatly appreciate your efforts and your partnership with us at Extreme Networks. And Bartlett School District, from the administration to agreeing to doing this, to the building principals, assistant principals. I know John McDonald, also the IT person, Scott Truitt there. I know Scott's probably running around the background there, but Scott, thank you he's been the one testing with me and making sure that this works okay and just putting really a Hall of Fame effort into it. So Scott, I greatly appreciate all the work that you've done to help make this connection possible for the students. We need to thank the teachers at all the respective schools that are tuning in or going to be actually interacting here today. Thank you for making arrangements to have your students watch this program. And last but definitely not least, we need to recognize the students, because the students, you guys are the real stars of the show here today. You're going to be the one driving the programs, whether you're asking questions of Claude or whether you're submitting them via Twitter or via the Zoom software Q&A segment. So thank you for your efforts in doing this. But I would like to go to the intro of Mr. Humphrey, and we can ask him for his opening remarks here in just a second. And if I could read from this bio, Mr. Humphrey was the third overall selection in the 1968 draft of the National Football League. This event would continue an outstanding career of football lore for the former college All-American out of Tennessee State University. So he's in his home in Tennessee and with the folks there at Bartlett. He was drafted by the Atlanta Falcons, where following his rookie season, he was selected as NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year. So obviously he made an immediate impact in the National Football League and for the Atlanta Falcons. The Memphis, Tennessee native graduated from Leicester High School and achieved notoriety following honors in All-American football, basketball, and track and field. So an all-around athlete, if you will. While at Tennessee State University, Humphrey was an All-American defensive end and invited to 4 college all-star games, the Senior Bowl, the Blue-Gray, Coaches All-American, and College All-Stars. Humphrey was selected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame just this year, 2014. His professional list of accolades includes 6 Pro Bowl appearances, All-Pro 4 times, and a trip to the Super Bowl 15. He has also been honored by Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame, the Georgia Sports Hall of Fame, the Atlanta Sports Hall of Fame, Atlanta Falcons Ring of Honor, and the Black College Football Hall of Fame in 2012. Throughout his life, and this is where I really find that our Hall of Famers really shine is what they've done off the field. If you think their on the field achievements remarkable, especially being enshrined, receiving the ultimate honor, being enshrined into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Our guys just do so much. They're Hall of Famers and on and off the field, and Claude is an example of that. And especially when you start talking about the pillars that you guys are studying, the 6 pillars of character: trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. When you talk about caring and citizenship, I think that's something that might define or does define Mr. Humphrey. So throughout his life, Claude has spent giving back to the community, volunteering as a counselor for the Nashville Parks and Rec, working with at-risk youth, serving as a member of President Richard Nixon's Council on Drug Abuse, and on the advisory board of the Atlanta Respite Services Incorporated. The 6'4" sack machine hosted the Claude Humphrey Show on WAOK in Georgia in 1977 and 1978. And he appeared, this is one of my favorites because I grew up on this show, appeared on the television show the Dukes of Hazzard as Big John in 1979. See, you young people don't know nothing about the Dukes of Hazzard, Bo and Luke Duke, but and the boys of Hazzard County, but I do, and I'm assuming most of the adults out there do as well. A family man in every sense of the word. The true love of his life, Sandra, of his wife, 47 years, passed away in 2013. Humphrey is a proud father of 3 daughters, Chandra, Cheyenne, Claudia, and Candace Cherokee. So before I ask him to have his opening remarks, what I want to do is just share a quick video highlight of Mr. Humphrey, and then we'll ask him for his opening remarks.
Drafted 3rd overall in the 1968 draft, Claude Humphrey quickly made his mark on the NFL. Humphrey was credited with 11.5 sacks in his first season and named Defensive Rookie of the Year. Humphrey played 10 seasons with the Falcons. He earned first or second team All-Pro honors 8 times. In 1979, he was traded to Philadelphia, and 1 year later, his team-high 14.5 sacks helped propel the Eagles to Super Bowl 15. In all, Humphrey played 171 games, collecting 122 career sacks.
All right, if everyone, oh, let me go ahead and stop this. There we go. If everyone unmute their microphones for a second and join me in giving a warm round of applause to Pro Football Hall of Famer, Mr. Claude Humphrey. And Mr. Humphrey, if you got a few minutes, opening remarks, would you like to share today? Go ahead and do so.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank my Lord and Savior for allowing me to be here. This is a tremendous honor for me because as I look out at you guys, I see our future. I see potential presidents and potential pro football players and basketball players and lawyers and doctors and engineers. So I'm honored to be here to give you a portion of how I lived and how I grew up in this area of Memphis, Tennessee, and to allow you to know that you can too arrive at the Pro Football Hall of Fame or at the school of your choice. Of course, I attended Tennessee State University, but the sky is the limit for you. All you have to do is apply yourself, work hard, stay out of trouble, and you too can be speaking to some kids after you completed your work. I'd like to tell you that if anything I say here helps any of you all, I would be really proud to have sit in front of you guys and talk to you and tell you about my life. So without he's told you all about me, so I don't think there's anything else I can say. I'll just open the floor up for questioning.
Okay, and what we're going to do is we'll go back and forth we'll go to a couple questions from the students that are in front of you. And students, if you can make sure that those that are at Bartlett Ninth Grade Academy, Ninth Grade School, please make sure to project loudly and clearly so that microphone can pick you up. If I can't hear it, I'll ask Mr. Humphrey to go ahead and repeat the question just so we can make sure that our national audience can hear it. So we'll go from a couple questions from then we'll go to Casanova, and as questions are submitted to me via Twitter or via the Zoom software from our schools that are tuning in from across the country, I will interject those as well. So for the first couple questions of the program, let's go to the students there in front of Mr. Humphrey. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
How do you encourage others to be true to themselves and promote positive character in everyday life?
Well, I'll tell you this, that growing up for me, I grew up in the early 50s and 60s here in Memphis, and there wasn't a lot of opportunities for people. My insight of what I would be didn't happen to me until I was in college. So I tell you, the earlier you start, the better it'll be for you to grow up and be an active citizen.
Thank you very much. And go ahead, Bartlett, if you have another one. And make sure to, I heard it pretty clearly, but make sure to speak up a little louder there, students.
How did your actions in school influence your life and career?
Well, my actions in school were I was a three-sport athlete, so I played basketball and baseball and football. So around my school, everybody just kind of looked up to the basketball team because we were on my high school basketball team. We had 3 high school All-Americans, 2 of which played in the NBA. So we had a great high school basketball team, and people around the school kind of just looked up to us, and it was up to us to set the standards for how things would go in the school. We were constantly talked to by our coaches in high school to tell us how that we were supposed to act and the leadership role that we were supposed to exhibit. So it was I feel like that we exhibited a good role model for the other students in the school.
And Mr. Humphrey, if I can add in there, can you talk with them a little bit about, I mean, a lot of these students are in positions of leadership, and how any advice for them of how to distinguish themselves as leaders at their schools? Because even, you know, if any middle school students are tuning in, I know we have some middle school students tuning in. We have high schools that are connected in here. How can they start nurturing some of these leadership qualities that you personified throughout your career?
Well, first of all, you have to be able to take the initiative. If you're one of those people who sit back and as a follower, then you're going to have problems. You need to step out and be a role model for your classmates. They see you doing something wrong, 9 times out of 10, they're gonna fall right into that sort of situation. So what you want to do is you want to be a good role model for your classmates. When they look up, when they see you, they see a person who's doing the right thing, who's taking care of business like he should. And I think that more than anything will set an example for your classmates and make you a role model for them.
And students, just to add into that, and then we'll go to a couple questions from Casanova. Whether you know this or not, you are a role model to someone. It could be to your little brothers and sisters. If you play sports, I guarantee you, your elementary students, middle school students, as high school athletes, if you're high school athletes out there, they look up to you like you're a pro player. I remember when I was little, I looked up to our high school basketball players, football players, baseball players. So you are, to someone, a role model. So know that there's always someone watching, wanting to emulate what you are doing. And the question is, are you being a positive role model or a negative role model to the young people? So let's go ahead and go to Casanova. If you want to unmute your microphones there, Christina, and shout out that question.
What are you most proud of?
Oh, speak up.
What are you most proud of?
That was good. What are you most proud of? Thank you.
I'm most proud of the man that I became. I grew up in a time when we were really considered second-class citizens as Black people, and so I'm proud that I was able to overcome those obstacles and become the father of 3 lovely daughters, to be married for 48 years to the same woman, and just be one of the people in the community that people just wanted to be around and wanted to hear what I had to say. So that's the one thing that I'm most proud of.
Thank you. Go ahead, Casanova. If you have another, go ahead and shout it out. Maybe not quite that loud.
What was your biggest obstacle?
What was my main obstacle?
Biggest obstacle.
I beg your pardon?
What was your biggest obstacle?
Well, I'd say that growing up in the time when I grew up was my biggest obstacle. Kids from the Binghamton community, that's east of Memphis, kids in the Binghamton community didn't go very far. And the thing about going to Leicester High School is most of the kids graduated and ended up just staying in the community. And I was able to get out in the community through athletics and make a way for myself in this big old country. So that's the one thing in it. Really, the biggest handicap I had was just growing up black.
And if you could share with them, obviously as an athlete, Claude, you know that, and as athletes out there, the students know that when you're when you're having an issue in athletics, we have no problem as people going to our coaches and saying, "Hey, coach, I'm having trouble with foul shooting or something like that," and there's no problem working on those things. But for some reason, in the classroom, it's sometimes thought of, if you're asking questions, asking for help, that you're somehow weak or inferior to everyone else, or something like that. Can you talk about advice for them, and as well as, were you willing to ask for help for not only for athletics but off the field as well? Were there people that helped you along?
Most definitely. I was not the sharpest knife in the drawer, so I needed help, and I didn't hesitate to go to my coaches and counselors and tell them that I needed some help. And at Tennessee State, they supplied counselors and tutors for us to help us get our grades and to stay in school. And one of the other things was a great incentive for me is that my freshman year, I kind of was messing around in school and wasn't going to class and messing around, and I got drafted by the Army to go to Vietnam. And I came to Memphis and I talked to the lady there in charge, and she told me, she says, "Why shouldn't I send you to Vietnam? You're not getting your grades in school. You're just up there, and we could use you in the Army. We could use you in Vietnam." So I promised her that if she allowed me to go back to school, that I would get in my books and go to school and really study. And I did that, and I ended up with a 2.5 GPA. So with the help of the school and the incentive not to go to Vietnam, I was able to achieve my goal.
Thank you very much, Claude. Let's go back to Bartlett there, the students in front of you. If you have a question, go ahead and make sure to say that out nice and clear.
Were you ever inspired by, did you ever inspire people to be better?
I hope so.
Claude, can you repeat that?
Atlanta to Philadelphia, I went into Philadelphia. Philadelphia had a young football team there at the time, and my goal was to get there and help that football team to go to the Super Bowl. So when I got there, all the players there, the defensive linemen, were young players, and they hadn't yet learned how to get ready for a football game. So I, in turn, gave them the benefit of my knowledge of how to prepare for a football game by going in and watching film and talking about our opponents and what we were going to do. And it worked out for me because I ended up taking, along with those players, to the Super Bowl. So that's the one thing that I'm most proud of.
And we'll go to another one here in just a minute from Bartlett, but I got a question. I don't know who it's from, but it's a question submitted through the Zoom software. What coach was your biggest influence, whether high school, little leagues, high school, college, pro. Who was your most influential coach?
My most influential coach was my high school coach. The second coach that I had in high school, a guy by the name of Herman O'Neill, was the most influential person on my list of coaches because he was the beginning. With him, I learned how to play the game of football. So not only did he coach football, but he also coached a lot of other things that helped me as a young black kid to excel in athletics. So my coach that was most influential was a high school coach named Herman O'Neill.
Great, thank you very much. And we'll go back to Bartlett there, and if they want to ask a question, and Mr. Humphrey, if you can just go ahead and repeat the question because it's a little quiet. I can kind of hear it, but just go ahead and repeat the question.
Okay.
What do most people think of you on screen?
They thought I was a big bully, mostly, but I really wasn't. I just, being big and having people look up to me and all that was kind of just overwhelming. And I had to learn how to accept the responsibility of being a good athlete and a good student. So, I learned a lot in high school that helped me when I went on to college to best integrate myself into the college environment.
Thank you very much, Bartlett. Let's go back to Casanova. If you want to unmute your microphones and go ahead with the next question. Nope. Christina, if you want to unmute there.
Okay, Jared, we're ready. Here you go.
Go for it.
What values are most important in a leadership position?
Can you hear us?
He says, what values are most important?
Yeah, what? Go ahead, Christina.
What characteristics and values are most important to be a leader?
The example that you set is the most important. If you're not doing what you're supposed to do, doing the right thing, following the rules and regulations, then how can you tell somebody else to do it? You have to make yourself be a leader so that others will follow. And I think that as an athlete, it's important that you set a good example because there are a lot of people who watch you on Saturdays and Sundays playing football, and then when you get out into the streets, then you have to exhibit good behavior so that you can be considered an outstanding individual.
Thank you very much, Casanova. Let's go with another one if you want to unmute there. And if you got another one, go ahead and shout it out.
How can we improve financial literacy in the NFL?
I beg your pardon?
Oh, God. How can we improve the financial literacy in the NFL?
Well,
Good question.
Thank you.
the thing about that is that how you come to the NFL, the NFL has nothing to do with improving financial literacy. You have to do that on your own. That's something that's done by you. If not, then after your playing days and after all those millions of dollars that you made, you'll be broke. So it's important that you do that. Those are steps that you have to take on your own, acquiring the right people to assist you in your finance.
And Mr. Humphrey, I know the students, just so you know, the days that Mr. Humphrey played, they weren't receiving the millions of dollars or even the hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases at that time. But nonetheless, they were still handed some pretty good contracts and some pretty good money at the time. How did you handle that? How did you handle the influx of money and cash, and what responsibilities did you take to preserve your future and your future for your family?
Well, the thing about me is that when I first signed my professional contract, I got paid a big bonus at the time. I made $50,000 that year, and as a bonus for signing the contract. And that was the first time in my life that I'd ever had any money. And of course, like all athletes, before I got ready to go to training camp, I had spent every dime of it. So it taught me, that was a lesson for me in how to take care of your money, and not just because you make a lot of money, spend a lot of money. I bought things that I didn't even want. I just thought I did. And so with the money, I just went out and just splurged. And when I got ready to go, I signed my contract in June, I think, and by the middle of July, my bank account had dwindled quite a bit, buying things that I probably shouldn't have bought. And so later on in my career, I learned better, and I learned that you got to put that money away for rainy day, per se. So, you know, it's not easy. The hardest thing that you can do is go from zero income to $50,000 and then try to manage it. It's not easy. It's a hard chore, and most people don't do well. So you need somebody to advise you on how to spend your money and what to do with it. Now, I'll say this, that even though you're going to be frugal, I want you to know that you have to spend some of the money that you make. You just can't just put it all away and save it. It goes against human nature to do that.
And we have, before we go back to Bartlett, I want to go to another question that was submitted by, I'm not sure which school it is, but I'm just seeing it here. Question is about the 6 pillars of character. Out of the 6 pillars, and those are trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. Which one do you think is most important, and why?
I think caring is the most important. Of all the things that you do, how you treat your fellow man is very important. And I think for me, caring and overcoming some of the obstacles that I had to overcome, that's my biggest contribution. I think I enjoyed being around people and being around my teammates, and so it was caring for me.
Okay, thank you very much. And let's go back to Bartlett for another question.
Okay.
What did you do when you didn't reach your expectations or feel short of your goal?
I put my nose to the grindstone and just tried to improve. Every year, I set goals for myself as a football player. And I would always go back and study all the games that we played, and I would then make a list of things that I needed to work on to improve myself. And every year, it helped me to be even better. I started off my professional career as a defensive rookie of the year in the National Football League, and that's quite an honor. That meant that I came to the National Football League with certain skills, and as a consequence, I tried to improve those skills as time went on. And and later on became second team All-Pro. And then I looked at that and I said, well, that's not good enough. So I made first team All-Pro. And when I got there, I said, well, where do I go from here? And I started to look at what I did during the season and try to improve on what I did. So that way I ended up making All-Pro all those many times that I made it, because I just didn't sit on what I did the year before.
And Mr. Humphrey, if I can throw in there before we go to another question from Bartlett, one of the things that comes up, and it's something that you kind of touched on in that remark, but one of the things that comes up quite often with these programs that we do with our Hall of Famers is the word preparation. I often tell students that students want to be the NFL star, they want to be the person on TV, they want to make the millions of dollars, they want to be that person on Sunday or Monday night. But if they saw the preparation that it takes from Monday through Saturday, they might reconsider. Can you talk about the preparation, not only on football, but just in life in general?
Well, the preparation for getting ready for a football game on Sunday it starts on Wednesday. And from Wednesday through Sunday, it is just all hell breaks loose. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of getting into the locker room at 6 and 7 o'clock in the morning, doing weights, going and doing film work, going out on the practice field, coming back in, doing the work. The day starts at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning and ends at 8 or 9 in the afternoon. So that'll give you an example of, you think that just because we go out on Sundays and play, that's all we do. That's not true. That is not true. The preparation for it is really overwhelming when you see what pro football players do to get ready to play a football game.
And how is that preparation carried over to other elements of your life? I mean, preparation is really the key to anything you're going to be successful in. So how's that carried over into other areas of your life?
Well, for me, I did other things. I had a multitude of jobs during the off season, because like you said, that our salaries were not the millions of dollars that the players make now. So we had to substitute that with all season jobs, and I did any number of jobs, but the approach to those jobs were the same as playing football. I got ready to do it. I did my work. So when I went in, I could excel in what I was doing. So preparation is important. Nothing happens by chance. You have to prepare yourself to do anything.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Humphrey. Let's go back to a question from Bartlett, and if you can speak out real loud, Bartlett, so we can hear that.
Do you think being athletic or non-athletic has any influence on character? Why or why not?
Absolutely, I think that being athletic does help your character. Participating in any organized sport or organization is important. It helps you to communicate with the people around you. It helps you to understand what other people are doing in their lives. So I definitely think that being an athlete is very much a factor. Of course, everybody can't be an athlete. Everybody can't be a basketball player, football player. So you have to accept. You have to want to excel in what you do, and just being an athlete is not really the answer, but it helped me.
Thank you very much. We're going to go back to Casanova. Casanova, if you want to unmute your microphone and go ahead and shout out another question. Oh, no, I caught Christina. Sorry, Christina. I should have prepped you guys a little bit sooner. Still muted.
The question is, the kids have been reading a lot of current event articles on domestic abuse in the NFL, and they were wondering what Clyde's opinion was on all this going on.
Can you repeat that?
The kids have been reading a lot of current event articles on domestic abuse in the NFL, and they were wondering what Clyde's opinion was on all this.
She's asking, Jerry, you want to answer that? Can you?
Yeah. Well, yeah, she's asking, the question she's asking, with all the news that's going on with, domestic abuse and other things in the NFL, some of the negative things that are going on, just what your thoughts and opinions are on the situations that have been going on in the NFL.
Well, I find that the NFL is no different from any place else, and the football players have problems just like you, everyday citizens, have problems. And they are trying to bring some of this domestic violence to a stop, but it's life. It's everyday life. The guy down the street beats up his girlfriend. It's just not football players. It's part of your everyday life. Of course, as a football player, you ought to, with all the physical attributes that you possess, you shouldn't really be trying to beat up on nobody. You can get enough of that out on the football field. You can beat up people and have people beat up on you. So it's something. It just happens. It just happens. And as hard as the NFL works, and especially in a case like Ray Rice, that's a unique situation. I truly don't understand all the variables of it, but it happened, and it was caught on tape, so you could see what went on. And as an athlete, I never thought of punching a female at any time. I really never really actually thought about punching a male, except sometime in the game it just happened. The situation called for it. That's what falls under that fairness thing. It happens before you know it, and after the game, you want to go and apologize to the guy. Hey man, I'm sorry I punched you, but you were holding me. You hit me in the back, you clipped me. Those kind of things. So I mean, it happens. It's part of everyday life, domestic violence, and it's something that we have to work to get away from. There's no good that can come from the domestic violence situation at all.
And wouldn't you say, in your opinion, Mr. Humphrey, that at the base or at the root of these problems, whether it's in the NFL or in everyday life, as you said, aren't these just? I mean, they're character issues. Am I correct? Would you say that they're character issues at the base root?
Well, I think that sometimes these things happen purely by accident. I don't think Ray Rice really wanted to punch or beat up his girlfriend. It's just something that happens, and that's the one thing that you have to be alert for. And I think you have to be in control of your faculties in a lot of situations that antagonize you. It's not just the pro football players, but it's everybody. Everybody in this room at one time have done something that they wish they had not done. And so pro football players are not any different from, just because he's a pro football player, you can't expect him to be any different from you and your friends and how you approach things.
And we'll go back to a question from Casanova in just a second, but just a quick point I'd like to make to students is a couple things, and Mr. Humphrey can vouch for this as well, because the media throws out all the negative things. I mean, you don't hear many positives, and you know what? If we didn't consume the negative stuff, the media wouldn't throw it out there. So unfortunately, as a society, we have a tendency to consume the negative stories. But what I want you guys to know is that for every one knucklehead that does something that they regret, I mean, I wouldn't even say they're a knucklehead, but maybe just a regretful moment that is caught in the media now. You know, for every one person, there's 10 guys in the NFL doing amazing, amazing things. And just to give you an example right now, because this is something we feel very strongly about at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, part of our mission is to promote the values of the sport, not only what the game itself teaches about teamwork and selflessness and courage and determination, but also the athletes, what they're doing out in communities all across the country. To give you an example, the backup wide receiver for the New York Jets, David Nelson, he is currently, he has a home in Haiti that he has adopted. He and his brother have adopted 9 Haitian orphans, and he's raising them. So there's so many good stories that are out there. And I'm sure, Mr. Humphrey, you can probably share some good stories of maybe your teammates or current Falcons players and what they're doing in the community.
Well, of course, we have some Falcon players that after their pro careers ended up going into the ministry. I think that's a great thing for professional athletes, so people get a chance to see another aspect of what a pro football player is. And all the pro football players are not bad. Don't get me wrong. You have some bad moments, but for the most part, all of these people are basically people. And what happens to them is it happens just purely by accident. And if it happens, the news is going to get it, and then they're going to broadcast it. So you have to be on your P's and Q's as a professional athlete.
Definitely. Thank you very much, Mr. Humphrey. And let's go back to Casanova. Christina, if you want to unmute there and go ahead with the next question.
What would you do if someone told you you weren't good enough for something?
What would you do if someone told you you weren't good enough to do something, Mr. Humphrey?
I've heard that all my life. So that's one of the things that helped me to be where I am today and to be selected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in August, is that they told me that I would never be anything, that I could not get out of the Binghamton community, that I would end up standing on the corner. And I was determined that that was not going to happen to me, that I was going to do something. I didn't know at the time in the early 50s that I would end up being a professional football player, but I knew that I was going to get away from there. I knew that that was not what I wanted to do in my life, and I wanted to have a family, and I wanted to raise my family in a good environment. So I was told all my life that there were things that I couldn't do, but I, in turn, proved them wrong.
And amongst a number of other things, that gold jacket that he wears shows you that that's one of the elements when you're enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You receive 3 things. You have a bronze likeness that is put on display here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. There's 287 members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame out of over 23,000 players that have played. We have a ring, Hall of Fame ring, that's presented by Kay Jewelers that he has on right now. He's showcasing right now the bling, and then the gold jacket. So. Talk to him what that meant, Mr. Humphrey, to be enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, because you had to wait a little bit longer than other people typically. Some people do.
I waited 30 years to get this gold jacket and this ring. I was a pro football finalist any number of times, but for some reason I never really got the number of votes that it took to be selected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And it was really a hard experience because as a pro football player, once you retire, there's nothing else you can do to help yourself to become a Pro Football Hall of Famer. Once you retire, it's all over. So when every time I was up as a finalist for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, there was nothing that I could do. I just had to sit there and wait, and that was hard. That was one of the hardest things that I had to do in my professional career is wait on the call to become a Pro Football Hall of Famer. There was nothing else. The work had been done. As the farmers say, the hay was in the barn. There's nothing else I could do to enhance myself, to make myself look good, to be selected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So the wait was hard. It was very hard. And sometimes I wanted to give up on believing that I could make the Hall of Fame. But my career stood for itself. And the things that I did as a football player were there. And nobody could take that back. So it was just a matter of the right time for me to go in. And this year was the right time. And I certainly enjoyed all the festivities that go along with being selected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You see, because I never really kept up with what happened to you when you become a Pro Football Hall of Famer. All the things that you have to do, all that your life would make this drastic turn from just being Claude Humphrey, the ex-pro football player, to being the Hall of Famer has changed my life tremendously. And I look forward to doing everything I can to enhance that this situation that I'm in now, and not to do anything to blemish this great experience that I've experienced as a Pro Football Hall of Famer. It's great.
And I think, students, just to recognize that, Mr. Humphrey is an example of this, and a lot of our Hall of Famers do this, is that, they've used the platform of the Hall of Fame to further their personal missions, their personal goals, their personal, a lot of times to advance their foundation work or their civic duties that they're doing in the community and things like that. So, I guess it leads me to another question, actually, Mr. Humphrey, and then we'll go back to Casanova. I'm going to kind of turn backwards on this a little bit. You were enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but not every person gets in the Hall of Fame. Not every person, wins a Super Bowl. Not every person gets an A on the test. Sometimes you don't get the accolades or you don't get the net result that you were desiring, even though you put forth a Hall of Fame effort into it. What advice do you have for people that man, they bust their tail, man, they got to be on the test. They didn't get the A that they were shooting for. What advice do you have for them?
Well, like I said earlier, you're just going to have to work harder. Every time that you set out to get an A and you don't get it, that means that there's a little more work that you need to do to get that A. So it's not, you can't, if you didn't get an A, you got a B, then you realize that was the standard that you have to move on past. You have to go further. You got to do a little bit more work. It's all about work. It's all about work. It's all about the effort that you put forward. You can't go home and go to sleep every evening and not be prepared for the next day in school. It just doesn't happen that way. Nothing is going to happen if you go home and go to sleep and don't prepare yourself. So it's important to be prepared. The preparation that you put forward is what makes you succeed in life.
Thank you very much, Mr. Humphrey. And I see we got about 5 minutes left. So let's go to a couple more questions. Let's go back to our friends there in Casanova. If you got a question, go ahead and unmute your microphone there, Christina, and shout it out. And I'll repeat it if we can't hear it.
Clyde, who would you say in your memory was the fiercest competitor you ever faced?
The question was, what is the fiercest competitor that I ever faced? And if I started to tell you I'll be here the next 20 minutes. Everybody that I faced was a fierce competitor. I have to single out a couple guys. There was an offensive tackle for the Oakland Raiders named Bob Brown at the time that was probably my biggest nemesis. Bob, not only was he a great athlete, but he played the game a little bit different from that of most offensive players. In other words, Bob Brown tried to beat you up. After the game, you had to go in and get in the ice tub, and you had to see the trainer because Bob Brown was going to physically beat you down. And so there were other guys too, but I singled him out because he was the one that I had the most problems with. Bob Brown is a Hall of Famer. Because back in the early 70s, all the guys that I lined up in front of mostly are Hall of Famers. The tackle from the Dallas Cowboys, Rayfield Wright, the tackles from the Minnesota Vikings, Ron Yeri. All these guys are people that I line up in front of every Sunday, and we did battle. So it's amazing, but you have to work. You have to prepare yourself, and you can't give up. That's the most important thing. When that guy's out there beating you down, you got to put it in another gear and get your step.
And let's go to a couple more questions from Bartlett, and then we'll ask you for your closing remarks, Mr. Humphrey, to close out the program. Bartlett, go ahead and speak loudly and shout out another question.
Any more questions in here?
Are we waiting for a student, or are they coming up, or no one's asking a question?
Do you think football was more physical when you played? The question is, do you think football was more physical when you played?
Definitely, I think it was, because when I played, the athlete wasn't the big 300. Like when you look at the Dallas Cowboys now, the Dallas Cowboys offensive line averaged 350 pounds. When I played, most of the guys were in the 250 category, and they were a little bit better athletes. They had a little bit more stamina. Now you line up in front of a 350 pounder. Here's a guy that's going to get tired in the fourth quarter. And when I played, I used to live for the fourth quarter. That was the time when I was going to do my thing, because everybody got tired, and I know that I was in better shape than they were. And in the fourth quarter is when I excelled. So I think it was the athletes back during the time when I played were more athletic than they are now. These big guys just lumber and lay on you and hold you down and all that. So they were better athletes, I think, during the time that I played.
All right, and last question, Bartlett, to close out the program. If you have another one, go ahead.
Matt, can you speak up?
What was your biggest fear in the NFL?
The question is, what was your biggest fear in the NFL?
My biggest fear was Sunday. Every Sunday that I went out there, I was afraid of what was going to happen to me. And I knew that I had prepared myself to go out and do the job, but in the NFL, you just never know. Everybody out there is a great football player. So when you're lining up, and I consider myself a great football player, but when you line up against great football players every Sunday, anything can happen to you. And my fear was getting injured. In 1975, I got injured and missed the whole season from just a freak accident. I was trying to spin to make a play, and I tore my ligament in my left knee, and I was out for the whole season. That season. So it's not the people out there, because if you get out there and you play as hard as you can, then 9 times out of 10 you're not going to get hurt. It's when you take that one moment that you want to, just mess around and don't do what you're supposed to do. That's when you get injured.
All right, and Mr. Humphrey, you shared a lot from stepping out to be a role model to it's all about work, it's all about effort, and really your philosophy is if you don't achieve, you got to work a little harder to take the next step. What is there anything you would either like to reiterate that you've shared, or is there something else you'd like to touch on to close out the program?
Well, the one thing that sticks in my mind is that when you set goals for yourself and you don't achieve those particular goals, don't give up. Hang in there, because there's something else there for you. Everybody don't always get the gold ring. And if you don't, then life doesn't stop there. Life continues on, and you just got to put forth the effort. Nothing happens by chance. Everything good that happens in your life was an effort put forward. And I say to you that set your goals high, try to achieve them, but realize that have a plan B for your life. Don't just put all your eggs in one basket. That'll make things go a little bit easier. So if you don't achieve your initial goal, there's something to fall back on.
And students, I think those are great words to kind of end this program on, that nothing happens. And trust me, I take notes. I learn from our Hall of Famers just like you guys do, that I can apply to my life. But nothing happens by chance. And anything good in life happens by effort. And if there's anything you remember from today, just in my personal opinion, remember that. Remember those words. So with that being said, if everyone can unmute their microphones and join me in giving a warm round of applause and saying thank you to Pro Football Famer, Mr. Claude Humphrey.